Well, it may have seemed like it took an eternity, but we have finally reached the very end of the Zentangle robot project. Now, this series has had at least 12, 13 parts in it. I'm still working on the editing, so I don't know the exact last part. But we've done a lot. We've learned a lot of different tangles and other elements, and we learned how to combine them into a little scene that hopefully has been fun along the way. But in this video, we're just going to wrap things up, showing an overview, a walk back, so to speak, and also the process that went into it. So join me with that. So as you recall, we learned 5 different tangles. Each of them we kind of learned in a very simplistic form on their own. And then we learned 3 different robot samples, and by no means are these the only ones we could have used, but they were just ones that we worked with, that I chose. And then we took all of that and we sketched the placement of these items, then inked it in and added details, and we ended up with this robot scene. Now, I do hope that you had a lot of fun with that, but I had a lot of fun creating it. Now, when I was trying to figure out what was going to be included in this, I like to just sketch random loose stuff on sheets of paper. So I found these different tangles and I just started playing with them. These are the 5 that we ended up with, just in a couple variations, and I started already playing with, well, what could I use that for? How could that tangle be used? And then came the real hard work. The tangles were easy to figure out, but then I just started sketching, well, what would be a good layout? And I initially started with the landscape layout, some of it with perspective, and I thought about the droids there. I tried just a whole bunch of different things. You can see some strange layouts, used as a fence. Here I am practicing along the edge, coming up with different robots and what they might look like. You can see some different ones that I ended up not using in this particular project, not because we couldn't, as I said, but just because I wanted to go a different direction with it. So here I am again practicing, laying out different options, very loose sketches, trying to work within the parameters of the size there. And then I like playing with the different robots. How can they look, what they might do for us. Or here's working with with the circuital in perspective, so we could see how that hatch might come together, some different objects there. Then I started doing not only an additional scene like that, but I said, hey, what if I did something with a vertical layout? And thought that might be interesting, and then started playing with that in a little bit more detail, where I tried to flesh it out. Well, how is that going to look? And came up with that. And of course, we ended up with this. We ended up with our final project drawing. So a zillion other ways we could have went with it, but given the limitations here of the size and wanting to keep it somewhat elementary, I didn't want to get into too much details about multi-point perspective and things like that, because that can get confusing when we're still learning to draw. But hopefully you enjoyed this process, and I was so thrilled to share it with you all. I know I had a couple delays. I had some system problems that I'm still trying to work out, but thankfully was able to get these final pieces together in a relatively timely way. But I'm so glad that you've joined me, if you have, for this process. If not, if this is the first video you've seen, please take a moment and go back and work through the other videos, not just for the sake of viewing them, but for the sake of your own creativity. You'll get a chance to create along with me, and it's a really fun and rewarding thing to do. So once again, thank you for joining me here in the Tangles and Tunes channel, and I look forward to seeing you all again very soon with our next drawing or project. Thanks again. Take care now. Bye-bye.